I didn't lose a newspaper. I lost a comic book. I can think of. I found my notebooks. Just the coloring book that I found. The coloring book. And I can't think of any strip of. There's a calendar that I was looking for that's just like a strip that folds open. I don't have newspapers. I don't have any. Lots of plastic bags, but no newspapers. Oh, well, something's wrapped in the newspaper. That's in a box somewhere. I have no idea. But yeah, there's probably things wrapped in newspapers. Yeah, well, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the Spider-Man. Yeah, it's Spider-Man in 9/11. Uh-huh. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started, and hopefully people will join me. Because it is 12 o'clock noon, people. And we need to get started. So I'm going to throw my screen sharing on. I hope this is what I'm doing here. There we go. And let's do this again. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to figure this stuff out. I might need somebody's help to tell me if I've got here we go. We did something here yesterday. Share computer sound is what we had to do to get sound. Let me know if you've got sound here, please.
Out of jail, but this time it's on the order of a federal judge. This is a big story that we've been following surrounding a News Channel 5 investigation. Cuthbert Langley was there as those inmates walked free. Cuthbert, the judge had some pretty strong words for the county.
Are we getting sound on that? Somebody let me know. Galaxy. This is Galaxy S8. You could hop on to chat or just open your mic real quick and let me know, do you hear the sound? Otherwise, I'm going to continue as if though we do.
Carrie, he did. The judge said what is going on in Rutherford County is, quote, an extraordinary injustice. This all revolves around Providence Community Corrections, a company the county uses to collect court fees and fines. Now, a lawsuit has been filed against PCC, claiming they are taking advantage of poor families. And tonight, a battle appears to have begun. It took just seconds for these former prisoners to get a sense of freedom.
I feel actually like a boulder's been lifted off my shoulders.
Desmond Martin was one of the 13 inmates released today. He was in the Rutherford County Jail on a $10,000 bond for a probation violation because he couldn't afford to pay court fees to PCC.
PCC are crooks, and that they're taking advantage of the poor, the elderly, and they're just taking advantage of the whole Rutherford County.
Desmond and the other inmates jailed for failure to pay were freed to go because of this court order from a federal judge. The ruling blasted the county's probation system for its expensive fees that could keep prisoners like Desmond jailed for months. The judge wrote if probationers had the means to pay court costs and probation fees in the first instance, many could avoid violation and arrest entirely. And the
saying directly there that because they don't have the money, they're being charged because they don't have the money. This is all about debtors' prisons.
County and PCC trap probationers in a pernicious
debtor imprisonment. Because some of these people don't go to prisons. They sit in the county jail for up to 8 years. This is ridiculous, people. We need to fix this.
Cycle for years on end.
This is a second violation, which I would have had to have done 90 days on for not being able to pay probation.
So they sentenced her to 30 days the first time. She lost her job, had to find another job, which put her behind in bills because while she wasn't working, she still had bills coming. And it just a never-ending circle that entraps them for years.
Fees.
That's exactly what happened to Heather Keller, who was jailed for a second time for not being able to pay fees from a misdemeanor driving violation she got in 2014. She says PCC kept adding on fees.
And I'll mention here that traffic violations are non-arrestable offenses, yet they've arrested and jailed this woman over the fines, fees, and penalties,
which made it impossible for her to ever pay off.
They don't ever want to see you succeed. They just want to see you fail.
It's God sent. It's a blessing. Because I didn't expect to go home.
Judith Brown says the same thing happened to her. Even after paying $1,000 in fees, she claims she was still jailed because she still owed money to the company.
I think they're a ripoff, and I think that they deserve.
To the company, not the county. See, no debt to society is being paid here. Period.
What they're going to get.
PCC has recently been purchased by Molina Healthcare. Tonight, a spokesperson for that company sent an email to me with the following statement saying, quote, "We are disappointed in the court's ruling, but will continue to comply with all state and federal laws while reviewing our legal options."
This is a medical company that purchased this probation services. And we'll find out here again that that was then turned around and sold. This medical company just bought them out for temporary holding. Temporary holding.
The inmates who were released today still have to appear before a judge on the charges they're facing. They were released tonight on their own personal recognizance. We're live in the newsroom. I'm Cuthbert Langley, News Channel 5.
And that, folks, is how they start the debt and end up sending you to debtor's prison just because you don't have money.
Defense attorney also be in the probation business? That's a question being raised as part of a News Channel 5 investigation.
Remember, I told you that that medical company bought them for temporary holding. We now have a private probation services that was up for, that was sold, bought, and now it's being sold again by a defense attorney. Get this, listen to this.
Investigative reporter Ben Hall examines how a company in business for one day scored a major contract.
I think the reason we got this is that we went in with fresh ideas.
One day, people. This man formed a company one day before he bought the probation services, and he's a defense attorney and sees no conflict of interest. A defense attorney that's working with the prosecuting attorney, shoving people through a probation service so they can make money. That is total bias all the way through. This man should have his bar license yanked. He should be thrown in prison himself.
Attorney Burt McCarter is the co-owner of Smyrna's new private probation company.
And we want him to come in and feel good about this.
Tennessee.
Remember, I spoke about the videos we reviewed yesterday in regards to White County and Sheriff Odie Shoup, and that he's the one that allows the corruption of his officers throughout his unit. But it's also the court, the other people involved, the administrators, the judges, the clerks, all these prosecutors and attorneys and defenders that are allowing this to go through. They're the ones that are running this stuff through the courts. They're the ones that are in agreement with it. So again, I reemphasize a defense attorney of any sort dealing with any kind of criminal law, and you'll hear him say that he doesn't do those cases, yet he advertises his court firm that does those cases, and yet he doesn't specifically do those cases, but the people in his law firm do. Either way you look at it, this man is complicit in bias intent just by his actions.
Court Services is promising a new field of private probation.
And I realized that there were some serious and significant problems with the prior probation group that was servicing Rutherford County.
That company was PCC.
And he's saying it's the fact that they were being overcharged. Now they're going to charge them the right price, but they're going to run 10 times as many through because they're going to be their actions are biased to go into that court and now cooperate with the public prosecutor and run those people through a probation service by offering them sweet deals on the defense end, or accepting sweet deals on the defense end.
Which faces a federal lawsuit accusing them of running an extortion scheme in which poor people ended up in jail because they couldn't pay fines and fees. Rutherford County got out of the private probation business in March after a federal judge ordered the county to release 13 inmates.
Rutherford County, a public institution, a public body, got out of the private probation business. I don't see how that's possible. If this county got out of the private probation business, then why are they still running a private probation system through their public courts?
But Smyrna stuck with it and awarded a new contract to McCarter, a defense attorney who has never run a private probation company.
This is probation for profit. That's not the point of the system.
Attorney David Rabin disagrees with the whole concept of private probation, but is equally concerned.
The whole concept of private probation. Again, we're talking about mixing oil and water. Like I said, you can't profess that you get out of the private probation business and run your public probation system through a private probation company. Period. It's called public oversight.
That the town of Smyrna awarded its private probation contract to a local defense attorney.
If you're going to be an attorney, you shouldn't own one of these kinds of places. And if you're going to own one of those places, you're not going to be practicing criminal law.
This is another attorney that agrees with it. And notice he said, and if you do, you're not going to be practicing criminal law.
McCarter is a founding partner of a Murfreesboro law firm, and he takes criminal cases, raising questions about whether he could represent a client who gets convicted, then has to use the private probation company he owns.
Well, if I was taking cases in Smyrna and my clients were going on probation, I would deem that to be a conflict. But I don't take those types of cases.
Does your firm take those cases?
They do, yes.
After our interview,
he doesn't take those types of cases, but his firm does. His firm, the one that he started, he was one of the founding partners. So him and his founding partners already have a certain relationship that proves bias if he takes a criminal case either himself or through one of his founding partners, period.
McCarter asked the board that regulates lawyers for an opinion about whether it's a conflict. The board responded it did not find one for either McCarter or his firm, but critics say it's close.
It creates the appearance of impropriety.
Smyrna awarded the contract to Tennessee Court Services, even though McCarter and a partner formed the company the day before the town asked for bids.
Why would they pick a company that's so new?
Well, I think it's the ideas.
3 companies put in bids for Smyrna's private probation contract. Evaluation sheets show Tennessee Court Services received the highest marks for things like history and resources of the firm, even though it had no employees or financial history.
They gave them a credit rating higher than the others for certain categories because it's just like a guy that doesn't have credit. His credit is actually better than anybody that does have credit because there are no bad marks on the report yet. This is why this man got this contract.
McCarter claims their experience is from running for-profit DUI education centers. Smyrna officials agree.
Imagine that, for-profit DUI education centers that are required by state agencies in order for you to pass so that you can get your license back after you have a DUI. Again, another form of debtor imprisonment. You're basically keeping these people in prison through a financial system. This is a mixed war upon the people, using the financial system in a spiritual aspect. It is both a financial and spiritual war.
Agreed, those centers were important.
We've got our team on the left here where they meet with their clients.
The town says it was swayed by McCarter's promise of shorter wait times and more.
Our team, notice it was a founding of 4 members and they have no employees, so it's still just those 4 members. He's admitting that he's part of a team. Again, if that team takes criminal cases, it proves bias by running them through that very same probation service that they own.
More flexible reporting.
I can't imagine if one of his founding members is part of the prosecution team.
Schedules.
You're not going to have 50 people out there waiting for hours at a time.
But whether it's for-profit DUI centers or for-profit probation, critics have concerns about defense attorney ownership.
But the lawyers who participate in the system should not own these things.
McCarter says it's not a conflict when his law partners take criminal cases in Smyrna because he doesn't get a share of any of their profits.
Founding member is a shareholder. Either way you look at it, you take upon the profits of that company for every action that that company takes. Period. I'll also note here that these 4 founding members are all supposed defense attorneys, all in the same line of business. And I can't imagine what the relationships have to do with as far as spouses and other members of the courts, and how many of their spouses work within this same system as probation officers, court clerks, other attorneys, this and that, magistrates on the bench even. And this is all for profit. It's all for debtors imprisonment for profit. Every last bit of it. Our prison system is a private system. Our probation system is a private system. Our court systems are being run by a judicial system, which is a private corporation itself. Comprehend this stuff, people. This is all so corrupt from the bottom to the top.
Andy says they have no access to probation company records. Let me know what you think on my Facebook page at NC5_Ben Hall.
No action or no access to probation office records. Notice they did not say private probation office records. And that's because that's what they are. They're private probation. And that means they have no access because they're trying to get public access to private documentation. Again, further proof. This is a mixed war upon the people in all aspects. This one here, we're talking about this private probation lawsuit that was settled for $14.3 million by the original.
Tens of thousands of Tennesseans could be getting money from a landmark settlement involving private for-profit probation. Providence Community Corrections and Rutherford County agreed to pay more than $14 million to end a class action lawsuit. Investigators reported Ben Hall first.
Sorry about that first blurb that's on the video. I couldn't correct it myself, but the rest of the video is fine.
The lawsuit claimed PCC, a private probation company hired by Rutherford County, extorted money from poor people by forcing them to pay supervision fees during their misdemeanor probation. Our investigation found people unable to pay those fees often had their probation violated and ended up in the Rutherford County Jail. But now a settlement in the class action lawsuit means PCC will pay $14 million, and Rutherford County will pay another $300,000 to compensate those victimized by the practice.
These were impoverished individuals who were caught in an endless cycle of debt, jailing, and poverty.
Attorney Elizabeth Rossi with the
attorney stating that they were caught in an endless cycle. They know this, people. This is why they buy these private probation companies. This is why they pull the tactics that they pull. And this is just another venue for them to pull in the money. Comprehend this, people. Do not hire an attorney.
The nonprofit Civil Rights Corps told us via video chat this is a major ruling that will impact private probation companies across the country.
This is an historic step in the movement to end private companies' use of the criminal legal system.
After the lawsuit was filed in 2015, a federal...
I want people to comprehend something here. She is an attorney, civil rights advocate.
Filed in 2015.
Private companies' use of the criminal legal system.
After the lawsuit was filed in...
The movement to end private companies' use...
Attorney Civil Rights Corps. Body.
Use of the criminal legal system.
Attorney Civil Rights Body. Civil, as in commercial. Attorney for commercial rights body. Attorney for the person. Only the person has civil rights, and they have actually no body. It is just the body of the people, the attorneys that are advocating for civil rights.
After the lawsuit was filed in 2015, a federal judge ordered Rutherford County to release several inmates from its jail. Rutherford County ended its relationship with PCC months later and now handles probation itself. As part of the settlement, Rutherford County agreed to never hire another private probation company and to waive fees.
Promised to never hire another private probation company. Yet here we have a lawyer who is operating a probation company through a defense attorney company operating privately. I think they might want to retract their words.
For poor people on probation.
When you're trying to pay something off and they just keep stacking fees on you, it's impossible.
Cindy Rodriguez was part of the class action lawsuit. She was ordered to pay $578 in court costs after admitting to a misdemeanor shoplifting charge. But after a year of payments, PCC said she still owed the county $512.
I mean, it's in black and white. I still owe what I started with a year later.
She showed us an arrest warrant if she did not pay. But under the new settlement, she is entitled to money based on how much she paid PCC and how long she was on probation. So are thousands of others who paid fees to PCC in Rutherford County. Attorney Rossi says the settlement is in the early stages and no money will be distributed immediately. She says people will be notified by mail about whether they will get money and how much it might be.
This could involve as many as 30,000 people who paid fees to PCC in Rutherford County. But again, no money is being paid out right now. When it is, there will be a website with complete information. Attorneys say that could take several months. Ben Hall, News Channel 5, investigates.
I don't know whether it's been paid out yet or not, but this video was from back in September 19th, 2017. So it's been almost, it's been 2.5 years. Now this next one, this is in regards to one of the sheriffs that was involved in a extortion thing in regards to e-cigarettes. He was found guilty and convicted, given 4 years or something like that. And he's currently in time or in prison doing time for that extortion. The very thing that we're talking about from a sheriff, extorting money further from the inmates that were in jail to begin with, likely some of which were in there for debtors, for debt. And he's making profit further himself in a private capacity.
So-called Club Fed, a place convicts want to go. But now disgraced former Rutherford County Sheriff Robert Arnold wants out of federal prison, and he'd like to have his record wiped clean, and he's serious about this. In an
Imagine that.
Exclusive interview with News Channel 5's Nick Barris, Arnold says he's formally reached out to President Trump to ask for a pardon.
I know what you're thinking.
And if you recognize this guy from my videos yesterday, Nick Barris, he's the one that did the morning line with Ben Hall, who did an excellent expose on the corruption in White County, Tennessee, which is just a couple counties over. It's on another side of Nashville, as opposed to where Rutherford County is here. And so he's doing another story on Rutherford County. And again, this guy, Nick Barris, does an excellent job in his reporting as well.
Could this really happen? Well, Arnold tells me he is indeed seeking a presidential pardon, and he hopes to become the second former sheriff to receive one after Arizona's Joe Arpaio.
This is what Arnold is after. What President
I want you guys to realize who he's comparing this man to. Joe Arpaio out in Arizona is the one that has Camp Pink Panties, where everybody has to wear pink. He does various different things that are not up to par in regards to the treatment of the inmates. Again, many of which are in there for debt reasons. So think about this stuff, people.
President Trump gave to Arpaio last year an executive grant of clemency for a full and unconditional pardon. It basically wipes the slate clean.
Yeah, that gave me hope on the whole situation. That's where I started thinking about it.
Arnold spoke with me from inside the federal prison camp near the Maxwell Air Force Base in Montgomery, Alabama. With landscaping and groomed lawns, the so-called Club Fed once ranked as the third cushiest prison in the entire country. Arnold was sent there after pleading guilty last year to wire fraud and extortion linked to the illegal sale of electronic cigarettes in the Rutherford County Jail.
This is all politics. I'm a political prisoner.
If you thought the former sheriff might now feel some remorse for his actions, think again. He says he did nothing wrong and believes he was unfairly targeted by opponents after he was re-elected sheriff in 2014.
You saw it being political in the fact they couldn't beat me in election-wise, so they had to take me out this way.
Arnold is serving a 4-year sentence, but hopes that is cut short by a pardon. He wrote a letter to President Trump. It reads in part, "Mr. President, please look into my case. I believe you will find I did not do anything illegal. I hope you will see, believe, and agree that I am not the villain of this story, but a victim who deserves..."
You cannot possibly be a victim if you are victimizing people that are already victims, period.
Deserves the head start on getting his life back. Please.
When we file bankruptcy, there's a common term used in the bankruptcy called fresh start. He wants a head start. He wants, again, to be ahead of the rest of the crew. How privileged this man must be.
Please pardon me.
I got a 50-50 shot. I just need one vote, and that one vote's President Trump.
I hadn't heard that, Nick. I'm a little surprised by that, but I guess that'll be between him and the president.
Rutherford County District Attorney Jennings Jones, like others, finds the pardon request a bit hard to believe, but knows Arnold is entitled to ask.
You know, it's everybody's right to apply.
Still, legal expert Jim Todd says with potentially hundreds of pardon requests submitted to the president, Arnold's chances are slim.
I think it's an extreme long shot. I think the percentage is probably less than 1%.
Arnold sent the letter to the president requesting the pardon back in June, but he has yet to hear anything from the White House. But whatever happens, he may still get out of prison earlier than expected. I'm told that Arnold may qualify for release to a halfway house by sometime early next year. Nick Barris, News Channel 5.
Thank you, Nick. So far, Arnold has served more than 1.5 years of his 4-year sentence. If he is released from the Alabama prison next May, Arnold says he plans to return to Middle Tennessee.
Great. Return to home turf. Now, this is a what they call a First Amendment audit, where people go around with video cameras and they actually test the people of these public facilities on whether they actually know how to enforce and protect another man's rights as opposed to policy. Now, I've never I've never watched one of the audits from this particular YouTuber, but she actually does a good job. However, as opposed to other First Amendment audits, she does not actually go inside of the building to do that test. She does her test solely on the outside. However, like I said, I've never seen this particular YouTuber do a First Amendment audit. This is one of my first viewings of her videos. So I will be checking more of them out, because despite the fact that she did not go inside, the first half of this video is all outside, and she specifically went around to each and every one of the signs, and did not have anybody come out and aggress her or anything, or approach her or anything, until we get up to a point almost halfway through the video here, I believe. And we'll see it right. If we look right here, there's a metal beam, like a big old metal girder right there. And she's coming up on that, and she's checking that out, just like she checked all the signs. She's checking out the memorials and everything. This happens to be one of them, and she guesses that it's from 911, and her guess actually turns out to be right. Little memorial stone. And there it says 911. It's got some badges and stuff, a badge number. One of the officers evidently was involved in that. So they have a memorial with one of the beams. And then as we see here, is where the first officer, or the officer, actually first starts approaching her.
But I bet that this is what they got. I bet that's some of it.
Referring to 911.
I mean, I can't figure out any other reason we would have that unless that was our piece of 9/11. If so, I feel honored to be standing by it. Moved almost to tears, like yesterday at the cemetery for Memorial Day. I don't know what that flag is. I can't tell.
Now you see the officer's going to be approaching. Right there.
I'm just totally moved. If I get to speak to an officer, I'm going to ask them if that's what this is.
Oh, look, there's an officer.
It almost has to be. Hey, I was just saying, is this piece of 9/11? Once I figured that out, I almost cried.
It's hard to hear him during this video, so if I have to, I'll stop and repeat what he says. But generally, you're going to be able to get the idea of what he says by how she responds. And right there, he just simply said, "Yes, ma'am."
I came to some tears yesterday when I went and visited the cemetery, you know, for Memorial Day. When I walked up, I was like, that's an ugly piece of rust, and I thought, that's got to be from 9/11.
And before I go any further, I do want to mention, you'll notice up at the top, it says awesome interaction. A lot of these first-minute auditors will give a grading of some sort. Hers here is awesome interaction, and that's basically what it is. I wouldn't actually call it a full audit. Again, because she did not go inside and give a full test. However, again, for the purposes of the review, she did an excellent job in what she did do. And one of the reasons that this interaction here goes so well, I believe, is because that she's not inside, as well as the fact that she is a female, and it's just general conception that most people don't see females as such a threat. And so his approach, when he came up, you saw his hands were down to his side, or even in his pockets maybe, as they seem to be right now, or down on a taser, so I don't know. But the interaction is an awesome interaction. I would not call it a full audit, though. She does an excellent job. Again, because she's not going inside, and because it's a female, tend to have better interactions.
I'm deeply moved. I can't believe I'm standing by it. May I ask your name and employee number?
Yes, he's
or
got
badge
his-
number. It depends on what county. 205.
Yeah, see, he's not even got a belt with any kind of defense implements or anything like that. No gun, no taser, no nothing. His hands are actually in his pocket. So he's actually quite at ease in this situation, given the body language, the body communication. He came out in the first part of the video here. You can see she's looked up at several cameras that were looking back at her. There's one right there. You can look in the little corner there. That's actually one of the cameras on the building. And she was showing her camera to its camera. So they were viewing each other. And so they already knew for all intents and purposes what was going on and that there was no actual threat. So that's why this guy came out without carrying a belt. Whereas if you see other audits, you'll see that there's 3 or 4 people, all with high-end cameras and stuff, and they'll come out 2, 3, and 4 in full force with tactical armor, bulletproof vests, everything. And again, that's why this interaction went so well, is because they were already informed. They knew it was a single female. She did not go inside. And because she did not go inside, they sent someone out. They had to know what was going on. They had to have an interaction, period. They forced the interaction, although so politely, it was forced. I do have to say, however, in this particular one, you do notice that she does say, "I hope I get to talk to an officer." Again, reiterating my point that she did not go inside. She was still on the outside and in hopes of being able to talk to an officer, but that clearly shows her intent that she was not going to go inside.
5. Is it badge or employee number here? Badge. Badge. Okay. It's nice to meet you. I can't believe I'm still.
Notice she made a distinction there. Not an employee number, a badge number. Okay? The badge number is just like the account number that belongs to the employee with the name who happens to be in the possession of a card holder with a similar sounding name, but it's an actual man. And she's making that clarification. This woman is no dummy. Again, I give her kudos for the video.
Standing by this, I feel honored, sickened, saddened, and everything. I bet it was. I live in the state, but I've never seen. I mean, do you know? Like, did every county?
Despite her knowing and being so intelligent, I do have to point out the grammatical error that she made, whether she knows it or not. She does not live in the state. She can live in a state. I'm in a state of spirituality, something like that. But when you denote that you live in the state, a lot of people are going to confer that you mean the state. And that's a fictional corporation in that sense. Or a territorial republic with imaginary boundary drawn out by metes and bounds that can be seen visually if you went out to those very metes and bounds and laid lines down. That's it.
Want to get a piece? Do you know who got them?
I don't know.
Was it like a humongous deal when y'all got it?
Yeah, they brought it in on a truck and police escort and all that.
A police escort? I'm so glad, man. That is beautiful. And I was looking at whoever made that. Did you look? Have you ever looked at it?
Yeah.
Okay. It's Dusty and Sons Concrete LLC from Spring Hill, Tennessee. We will not forget. So it's the EMS, the firefighters, and all the police who have sacrificed their lives to protect the community. Isn't that beautiful? Man, I had no idea when I came here that I would be moved out of jail, you know?
Yeah.
So, anyway, which part of this is is all of the real tall part, is all that the jail?
Okay, here I want to point out, people, though this video, even so far, again, like I said, the first half, she just went through and took video of all the signs and everything around the outside, videoed the windows up here. She's going to ask some questions about those windows as she made comments about them in the beginning of the video. The video cameras themselves, the flags, everything. She did an excellent job. And here again, even though it's not what I call a full audit, she does an excellent job on doing a part of an audit that these other auditors don't do. And this is going to help express some of the stuff that goes on in these facilities that they call debtors' prisons. Like I said, this is just a jail. And again, she's gonna discern that fact in her questioning as well. This is not a prison, this is a jail. But yet it's got people that will sit there for up to 8 years, imprisoned for 8 years in a local jail over debts or over supposed debt that's still going through court that may yet be found not guilty or be appealed appropriately, because these people are in nothing but the intent of making a profit, period. This is a very important part of this video that points a lot of that stuff out, and we'll be discussing those as we go along, so pay attention.
Oh, but the short part's the sheriff's office?
Yeah, those are the offices through there.
Okay. Cool. Are any of your offices open? I didn't mean to come this early. It was by accident.
Dispatch calls, like there's some lady outside videotaping stuff.
Okay, here's a very important part as well. Like I said, she made video of all the signs and everything. One of the things that she's going to denote here and explain to this officer she's talking to is going to be exactly about what she's doing here. And she is going along and making sure step by step. And she started out by doing so first thing. Before these guys were even open and aware, she even says it was still slightly dark out when this started. Pay attention.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's typically.
I completely understand.
Before 8 o'clock, so what's going on outside?
Definitely. And when I got here, it was actually still kind of dark, and 3 officers passed by me because the sign, I couldn't see it, and it was a notification that you had to read when you came in. So I had to get out and get my flashlight.
She had to get out and get her flashlight so she could read the sign. She is doing her due diligence by informing herself of the notices. You are given notice, take notice. Pure and simple. She's doing this step by step correctly as we're supposed to do. She's doing an excellent job.
And read it so I wouldn't do something wrong once I got in here. Right. So everybody was passing by me. I thought, I know they're wondering what I'm doing, you know, but I had to read the sign or I might.
She stated her intent so that I wouldn't do anything wrong when I got in here. That's her intent. She's acting totally in equity by the use of her words and everything. Her actions, she's being very peaceful. She didn't go inside. And this might be a better way to start approaching these people, is start doing external audits, getting them used to you and familiarize yourself with them so that when you come by and do another audit, you go inside, they're, oh, hey, how you doing? They already know you're doing an audit. Okay? Think about this. They gave you notice, give them notice. Hey, listen, next time I want to come in and see the inside of the facilities. I want to see what you got up for signs. I noticed outside you've only got 1 or 2 signs that are in Spanish, yet you got all these other signs. Is it something that's supposed to be uniform so all people that come into this facility know what's being done? All people that come to visit this facility, are they allowed to read all these signs? Is it uniform? Do they all have equal access so that they are equally noticed? This is very important and very poignant and very important point of law.
I do something wrong.
I just don't like people videotaping part of it for security purposes.
Well, how would it affect security, in your opinion?
Now, right there, I couldn't hear it quite clearly myself, but he mentioned something about he didn't want They don't want people coming in because it raises the security risk. The security risk is a perimeter, is a distance thing. Today we have them committing us to social distance out of fear. And this is what they're trying to invoke, is this social distancing from here to here instead of just here to here, the 6 feet. You know, they're trying to increase that social distancing, and they found a way that in order to invoke it, they got to start it out at 6 feet. That's what they're doing, folks. Again, it's a very poignant and very important point of law. Is there proper notice?
Okay, I mean, seriously. Because anybody can ride by and look at it at any given time.
Yeah.
So
she's raised the point that once somebody views it, that it raises their risk factors by pointing out that anybody that goes by can see it. And this is why we have the right, the First Amendment right, upheld in those court systems that say we can take video or publish anything that we can clearly see within our view, so long as we're in the public. If you want privacy, you have to create that privacy in public. Otherwise, in public, you have no right to privacy, period.
So, you know, anything that the government would not want the public to see, then they should shield it, because videotaping photography in any way is part of the First Amendment.
Oh, yeah.
And so we can go to any public place and film any public official, any building, any public property at all at any time. And so, you know.
And so you see this guy, he already said, oh yeah, and he stands there continuously shaking his head. His hands are still in his pocket. He still hasn't ran back to the office and got a gun belt and his weapons and bulletproof vest and all that. He is completely comfortable with this woman and proving that the risk factor has not gone up. And she's making a very clear point of law that there is no risk, period. Just because somebody's doing an activity that they don't want or don't like, or have some kind of conception that they have a duty or right or privilege to uphold something that's in violation of your rights, doesn't mean it's so.
I don't know what anything could accomplish by me looking at that building, because you can ride by and look at it all day. But I want to ask you, are those tiny slits little bitty windows?
Cell windows, yes.
God, man.
This is the point I was talking about. Are those little tiny slits, itty bitty windows? And the officer said, yes, those are the cell windows or whatever of the tank. Each one of these facilities, they don't have necessarily individual cells alone. They have individual cells in a block unit that has a big open area. This big open area has windows that lets light in, but their individual cells on the inside don't. And this is it's a mind control thing when you go into these facilities where they leave the lights on all day, and at a certain point of the daytime they turn all lights on and keep them that bright until a certain time at night, where they shut everybody down and put them in a jail cell with a light on, depriving them both of darkness and light, period. It's a spiritual battle, and they are doing it through the utilization of these facilities, period.
That's sad. I know there's murderers, rapists, and stuff in there, but there's also people that might have stolen a pack of gum, and that drive you insane, never seeing sunlight.
Yeah, well, they're really only in their cells for their sleep hours.
And he makes the excuse, well, they're really only in their cells for their sleep hours. But like I said, it's a spiritual battle of light and dark. And so they don't want you to know either. They want you to have a medium that they provide that helps control. And this is also done through colors. Like we spoke about in yesterday's video, or Monday's Zoom meeting video on franking. Color does have something to do with it, but it's how you portray the color. And in this sense, most people portray the light pastel colors as a more peaceful thing. So they do a lot of lights pink, like light pinks, like Joe Arpaio down in Arizona, light peaches, light purples, light blues, things like that to quell the emotions. And this is all a matter of subduing one's mentality.
Yeah. So anytime during the daylight, they're actually out of their cells from about 5 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. So they're really just sleeping there.
Do y'all have, so is this like minimum or short term until they go to court? It's not prison, it's not
a prison.
Notice this is where I pointed out earlier, she's going to make a distinction on this is a jail and not a prison, but yet it imprisons people for as long as up to 8 years. Listen to what she says here.
County jails are considered holding facilities, but they do get sentenced to serve time.
If it's under...
He just said that it's a jail facility and they're held there while they're going through court, but some people do get sentenced to jail time here. Okay? Again, listen.
A year, right? If it's under a year, don't you stay at the jail? Up to 8?
Yeah, you can get his response. Again, you can't hear this guy very well, but you can get his response because she's clarifying it. She doesn't just say, oh, that many years. She clarifies up to 8.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. People sit in this facility for up to 8 years. Up to 8 years. And mind you, people, there are many people that are convicted that shouldn't be. And there are people that are in this system for up to 8 years and actually do win. But then they have another 8, 10, 15-year battle trying to get their fucking payment for having to have done that. Excuse my language.
Usually the longest people stay here are people that are waiting to go to court, like for serious crimes.
Another thing that they got me when I was looking at that building.
This guy said usually those are people that deal with more serious crimes. Well, again, a lot of these people that are in here on crimes that derive from civil penalties and such, civil probation services that weren't able to keep up with their payments and stuff like that. A lot of these people are in here for debt, and therefore some kind of conversion has happened to turn it into a criminal penalty or criminal accusation. And that's all fraud too.
I watched Lock Up like 10 years ago when it first came out. I can't bear to watch it anymore. I can't bear it. Yeah. But way back then when I could, the ventilation, there's no ventilation. And I just see those little holes and you know, the smell. I actually knew a guy who went to jail for a few days and he said it literally smelled like men's butts.
Men's butts. Now, granted, a lot of these institutions are a lot better nowadays. As you'll notice in a previous video here today, we saw that a medical service bought a private probation service interim between the sale to a criminal defense attorney. A lot of these facilities have a lot of medical backing today through the insurance programs, and it's a matter of their risk management. And it's because these kind of issues have come to light. And again, of the mention of the small windows, they get away with that because of requirements and stuff that say, well, it's not a matter of health, and it is. It's required as a matter of health that all living creatures get out there and get into the sunlight. The sunlight is very important in the health of the body. If one wants to heal thyself, they must be healthy thyself. And if they're preventing you from being healthy by preventing a nutrient process, a very important part of the process of nutrification and photosynthesis and this and that, which is evident among all life, then they are in fact depriving you of health, even though they're using health insurance as a risk management in their favor. So the butt smell isn't just the only issue, but she brings up a very inconsequential, I'll call it, thing for now, simply because she only describes it as a butt smell, whereas the ventilation problem itself is much greater than just a butt smell. When we think about passing bacteria and things like that, cleanliness is a matter of filtration and cleansing, and that is a very important part of getting a lot of people in such a small confined place. It is a priority of their risk management.
Just because the lack of ventilation, not this facility, but because of the lack of outside air coming in, that the air is recirculated on the inside.
No, ours is actually really great.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
The big.
Notice this man has pulled his hands out of his pocket smell. This is a matter of body language, people.
Ventilation, not this facility, but because of the lack of outside air coming in, that the air is recirculated on the inside.
Notice he now has his hands out of his pocket and his arms are crossed. This is a physical posture indicating uncomfort. He is no longer as comfortable as he was before. He has now been out here with this woman for approximately 5.5 minutes, and she's asking some serious questions.
That's actually really great.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
The big slats you see, those are actually roll up windows. So we'll roll those up in the daytime and they get fresh air.
That's incredible. I'm thrilled to hear that, man. I am.
We just told her these are roll-up windows. In other words, they got shades that they roll up in the daytime and they roll them down at night, implying that these inmates get the darkness that they need. Again, I tell you from personal or firsthand experience, every jail I've had, the lights stay on all night. We'll leave the light on for you. Believe you me, they do.
I mean, it's jail, but for a jail, it's a really great, clean facility. We get out and clean every single day.
That's awesome. It doesn't have to be inhumane.
It's not. It's really
He just mentioned that we have it cleaned every day. It's an awesome facility. We keep it very clean. We have it cleaned every day. The inmates do the cleaning, people.
You know,
we offer programs and classes. People get their GED.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we're actually setting up a program now to where they can go to college. So you can be.
Who through? Which college is helping sponsor it? Do you know?
We have a person that handles all that stuff. But they're working on getting that started very soon.
I got the number off of the sign over there of the jail. I might call and ask them, because I think they all should, even the ones you think of those like lockup. I swear I haven't watched it in a decade. I can't take it.
The worst stuff, because that's what's
exactly.
Yeah.
But I don't. If you're in jail for murder for life, you have nothing. If you have no job or anything else, all you do is have time on your hands to do something wrong. It's almost inevitable. But if you can go to college and get your degree, and colleges are willing to come and volunteer their time and not make it an expense for the taxpayers. Right. So why not do it, you know, and give them jobs, you know?
Yeah, that's one of our big things here. We're all about rehabilitation.
How do you rehabilitate?
We offer NA classes.
NA? That's great. Anger management?
Parenting classes.
Parenting.
I'm not sure if they do.
Right there, he was talking about, she was talking about drug evaluations and stuff, and he said they offer NA classes, Narcotics Anonymous classes. This is a direct violation of Narcotics Anonymous procedures and programs. They are not under the supervision of any outside entity. These people cannot offer NA classes and call it NA classes with the full conveyance of NA unless the entirety of NA in autonomy, autonomously agrees. That means every member of NA has to agree that these people can offer and supervise NA classes. They cannot. That goes directly against the violations or the strict procedures and guidelines of NA itself. It was to, NA came about because people were being jailed at one time for having anything to do with another person that had an addict, that had an addiction. So if you had something to do with an addict, wherever two addicts joined together, they were arrested. That's the same thing, the same concept that this debtor's prison is all about. You can't do this shit, people. You cannot do this. You cannot violate people's individual rights by saying you have supervisory rights, period.
I work nights, so
Okay.
I'm not here during the classes.
I got you.
They do tons of different Bible studies with multiple churches that come around. And if you
He's explaining this NA class where they do tons of Bible study. They've got a misconception of what NA is all about. It is a spiritual program, not a Bible program. We don't care about the Quran. We don't care about the Torah. We don't care about Buddhism, Muslim, none of that. It has nothing to do with it. It's a matter of individual spirituality, which is what the First Amendment is all about in and of itself. No one, not Congress, not you, not your brother, not your mother, not your neighbor, not your school teacher, not anybody has the right to tell you what religion to follow. You have the right to have your own faith-based beliefs. A very big and distinct difference. Again, autonomous in and of yourself.
If you want to hear the word, you can.
Let me ask you this question. You might know, since you're here at night, you might not. Do you deal with breakfast?
Yeah.
Okay. If you are Jewish, you know, you can't eat pork. Do they give you an alternative?
Again, we're talking food here, but it's not a matter of health, as she pointed out earlier in regards to the ventilation system. Now we've already passed the risk management stuff. Now we're talking about a different kind of risk management in regards to faith-based beliefs.
To that.
Like right now, it's Ramadan. So
It is Ramadan.
Which most everything has to do with your own health. Heal thyself. The way to be healthy.
Right now?
It's Ramadan right now until June 3rd, so everyone gets to eat if they're Ramadan.
Yes.
They claim that they get to eat before the sun comes up.
Yeah.
And then they'll eat again when the sun goes down. So we're not.
Again, you can't. You may not be able to hear this guy very well, but he's explaining that they're in the middle of Ramadan right now, and there are certain people that they have to give certain dietary schedules to because of their faith. And this again is in regards to their risk management. But I also want to point out to you people, this guy's an officer that deals with that concept within his own private facilities and stuff that they're operating out of, and through his duties. He's very well aware of the various different religions. He's very well aware of their different concepts and beliefs. He's very well aware of the differences in the constitutions, both state and federal. He's very well aware of the difference between rights and privileges as a man or a civilian. He's very well aware of the differences that are being played within this system. These people are not actual dummies. They may be of a lower intelligence, but they know this stuff. They just know things that you don't know, and you need to be informed of this stuff as well. You need to educate yourself like these people are being educated in certain aspects so that they can control those aspects. If you're not familiar with the various different religions and you only assess your own religious views, then that's not the full spirituality of any religion that I know of. Every religion that I know of that I've been subjected to said that we're supposed to do unto others as we would have them do unto you. And that was regardless of whether they had a different religion, a different job, a different education, a different lineage, no matter what. And this is the basis of the new covenant in the Bible, wherein he accepts you into his kingdom regardless of where you came from, and so long as you follow his word. So these people know the words of various different religions and the words of various different risk factors according to different aspects of their job, because they're subjected to them daily in regards to everybody screaming about their rights while they lock them up for those rights or by violating those rights. These people know very well what they're doing, regardless of whether he's comfortable or seems polite. Or you look at him now, see, he's stopping her in her conversation or trying to explain to her what the Ramadan and all that is. She already knows. That's why she's asking these questions. And it's important for us to start doing these audits, but learning the information first. And again, I give her kudos for the way she's doing this particular audit from the outside.
What about Muslims? Do you have many Muslims?
Yeah, we've got a few.
Do they get to have their rugs pointed toward Mecca and pray 5 times a day?
We don't offer them rugs, but we offer.
We don't offer them rugs, but we offer them mats, this and that. But again, like I said, this lady knows what she's talking about, because once she got done with the Jewish Ramadan, she went to Muslim and asked about their mats and praying 5 times a day and this and that. So she's asking questions that she came prepared to ask.
Them extra blankets or
So they could use something.
They can't pray.
And they can keep their Quran?
Yes.
That's wonderful. Man, you have really...
And they get to keep their Quran? Yes, of course. Comprehend something here, people. The Quran is actually what's construed as a lawful document, a lawful paper. You have the right to maintain your own lawful papers at all times, including during incarceration. You have the right to your legal documents. You have the right to your lawful documents. You have the right to the Constitution. You have the right to every public document, as well as your own private documents. They cannot take that away from you, period.
PR'd. I'm serious, because this will go on YouTube, and I mean, you are wonderful PR for this. I'm telling you, I'm very impressed, because this is the best I've heard.
She's impressed, which is fine. Again, I agree. Give this man some kind of decency anyway. I don't know about the rest of his behavior. I do know by his body language he is still uncomfortable, and it's simply because he thinks that she's wasting his time, because he already knows she's not a threat, knew that she wasn't a threat to begin with, and here he is out answering questions that he doesn't want to answer. But he's doing his due diligence to answer them politely. Again, give him credit for that. But again, I give her more credit because she's doing so in a more proper manner that doesn't allow him to get vicious and violent, such as going inside, being accosted by several people. They knew that she was by herself prior through their own video cameras all around the building. And so they only sent one officer, again, without any weaponry or anything. I don't even know that he's got a camera on here. This is where they normally have their camera, right here. And you can see the clip where they clip it on their shoulder. It's not there either. So it's on his belt with the transceiver.
Of any facility like this. It really is.
I'm proud to work here, so I can't say anything.
That's awesome. How do you get Employee of the Month?
He said he's proud to work here. Of course he's proud to work there. They give you a paycheck that says carte blanche.
Tell me, what are the things that make you Employee of the Month?
Specific qualifications, just
It's got to be something.
supervisors vote on who they think did a great job. Somebody does something above and beyond what their normal duties are.
When I first saw the sign,
This guy just said the supervisors determine that by the quality of your work, those that go above and beyond their normal duty. Above and beyond their normal duty is above and beyond their normal quota. So those who have the greater number of tickets get the Employee of the Month. Just like the server who gets the greatest amount of tips at the local restaurant gets the Employee of the Month. It's the same basis. It's a quota system that says whoever does the most performance commercially.
I will be honest with you and say, I said it out loud on here. Is it whoever arrests most people?
No.
How many? I'm just telling you the negative outlook you could have on it. And I'm like, is it how many people got put in solitary, how you treated your prisoners, or is it based on something you really do well?
It's typically based on a lifesaver award.
That's great.
Believe it or not, we save lives all the time.
Believe it or not, we save lives all the time.
Not just our patrol officers, but our detention officers.
You have the AEDs?
Yeah, of course.
Awesome.
AED, we have a full medical department, 24/7.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really great. I mean, for a jail, it's a really great place to be.
I'm impressed. Oh, okay. When I was looking at that, is that like, okay, I was talking on here how we have spree killers and people who escape. This last year or two, you know, where we have these mass murders, like just recently, that guy that killed, 5 people or something? Not in this county, but right around Middle Tennessee. Is that like a mobile command center if something like that happens? Okay, that's what I thought.
She just confirmed this is a mobile command center for a Rutherford County. And I don't know that there's a need for it, but there certainly is by the amount of people that they hold within their facilities, enough income providing for the sustainability of this. Again, it's all based upon debtor imprisonment. Comprehend this, people. They have this nice equipment because they imprison the poor.
It might be, especially with all the antennas. I thought that was really cool. And I volunteer for the Red Cross, so I was happy to see those there too.
We just did a blood drive a few weeks ago.
Cool.
Yeah.
This is where she
Man, you're wonderful. What was your name? Travis, Lieutenant Travis. It was a pleasure.
Anyway, that's on Rutherford County. And basically, again, like I said in that First Amendment audit, it can be considered a First Amendment audit, but I don't consider it myself as a full First Amendment audit in the aspect that it was not completed by going inside. But yet at the same time, I also have to mention that most of these other First Amendment audits, though they will walk up to the door as they're going inside and video camera and get shots of various different signs along the way in, they don't do the expose quite so often of all the way around the facility. Now, some of them do. Some of them start out at a roadway and walk all the way in and film the entire thing on their approach. But again, this lady went all the way around the facility the best she could, and even started at the entrance and got every sign. And that's a different aspect that a lot of these other First Amendment auditors don't do. Now we've got a couple videos of debtors prison, life inside America's for-profit justice system. This is just a 2-part video. Both of them about 15 minutes long.
If you wanted to create a system to make people poor and keep them poor, this is the system you would create.
You get a speeding ticket, a wealthy person can go and pay it, and a poor person cannot.
I have heard judges tell people that if you do not.
This is what the one judge was talking about earlier. If they could pay for it in the first instance, then there wouldn't be a need. And when they ticket people that don't have the money in the first instance, it creates a enlarging debt upon that person because they didn't have the money to begin with. Now you're taking food out of the money of their babes to force them to pay a fine, fee, or penalty that they can't afford to pay. And then you turn around and further imprison them, again, taking further money from the mouth of their babes. This is a true mixed war, spiritual war upon the people, period.
Come up with the money that you are supposed to pay tonight, I will incarcerate you. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of the law.
I mean, these are basic violations of the Constitution.
That's all they want is money. If you don't pay your fines, you will go to jail.
Do you hear what that woman said? That's all they want is money. I don't call this true and correct, but the first thing they want is money. If you're going to give them a hard time about getting that money, they start tacking on other penalties. This is done in the bargaining system within their codes, rules, and regulations, where they charge you with one crime that is so outrageous that they give you a plea deal to something lesser. And if you fight it, that the outrageous charge is actually a criminal offense where they're actually going to seek fines, fees, penalties, and jail time. And the plea bargain lets it down to no jail time, but just a civil infraction where they're still going to seek the fine. Okay? This is the mixed war upon the people. It is a financial war against your spirit.
Are these debtors' prisons? Are these courts? A young man in 2013 hung himself over traffic tickets because he was passed from court to court to court.
That was my baby. You don't outlive your children.
You take away people's lives. Some people fight back.
Debtors' prisons were originally created in the Middle Ages to hold debtors hostage as the ultimate collateral until their families can pay what they owed. They were outlawed in the U.S. in 1833 for being unconstitutional, but now they're seeing a return in a different form. In the South, municipalities strapped for cash have been targeting.
Notice he said now they're seeing a return, but in a different form. And that's exactly what it is, people. It's offer and acceptance information of contract. These people that are in these prisons are there by their consent because they don't know it's about the debt behind the debt. Okay? And this is the different form of the debt. That's what they're talking about right here. It is still unconstitutional, no matter what the 14th Amendment says, period.
The most vulnerable citizens, who are primarily Black and living under the poverty line. In Missouri, some of these municipalities generate anywhere from 20 to 40% of their total revenue by fining citizens. Bell Ridge, a small town of 2,700 people, collected almost $500,000 in fines. And Ridge, a small town of by fining citizens.
Remember what the gal said earlier. It's all about money. Skyrocketing court fines are a major revenue generator for Ferguson. All of their code, statutes, rules, and regulations seek a financial penalty if you violate or if you are convicted or accused or charged with violating or committing an infraction. Two very different things. And those statutes, rules, and regulations are all seeking the court fines. They're seeking an economic.
Bell Ridge, a small town of 2,700 people, collected almost $500,000 in fines and revenues in 2014 by issuing 7,700 tickets. That's at least 2 tickets for every resident. According to the ACLU, there are 9 states in the
2 tickets for every resident. How many of those officers? How many of the court people? How many of the magistrates, how many of the prosecutors, attorneys, public defenders, or defense attorneys, how many of those people got these tickets? How many of those people got 0 tickets? So when they say an average of 2 per resident, it's actually closer to probably like, I'm going to say 4 or 5 per poor or classified people in a certain class or lower.
The country where local governments jail people for failing to pay legal fines. In 2013, the 90 municipalities of St. Louis County, Missouri alone collected $60 million in fines and court fees. Fines range from traffic violations to quality of life ordinances, which fine you for things like sagging pants, chipped paint, mismatched blinds, or even having a barbecue in your front yard. Once you receive a ticket for an offense, you have to go to court to pay the fine. If you can't pay, then you're sent to jail. When you leave jail, you could face probation fees, which only adds to the original debt you were in and couldn't afford to pay to begin with.
See what they do here, people? They give you a civil infraction, tell you you have to pay a fine, and then if you don't pay that fine, now it's a criminal offense. That is unlawful conversion. This is unlawful conversion. And again, we're talking about being put on probation now for something that was an unarrestable offense. And now they're not just seeking fines, fees, and penalties, but now they're seeking probation fees. They've tacked on more fees, knowing that you couldn't pay it.
We don't worry about no criminals. We worry about the city officials. The city officials are criminals. They took all my money. Nobody would believe this is the way we live in Paysdale.
Valerie Whitner is a Missouri resident making less than $30,000 a year, who has received roughly $1,200 in fines annually for the past 8 years. The city has threatened to bulldoze her home if she doesn't pay all of her citations for illicit barbecues and growing bamboo in her yard.
It's like they go into your bank account and say,
growing bamboo in your yard. How is this possible, people? How is it possible that one other man can get anything legislated anywhere on any level, municipal, county, state, or federal, that says you cannot grow bamboo? Period. This is just utter stupidity.
Say, I guess I need a couple of more dollars today. Let me go see if I can get Miss Whitner, hit her up for a couple of $100. Oh, by the way, Miss Whitner, it's a piece of siding up there that needs to be fixed. We got to cite you for that. Your grass is too high.
We're going to take the money that you might possibly need to fix that siding by giving you a fine for not having perfect siding. Come on, people. Again, pure stupidity. Think about what these people are doing to us.
Paysdale ticket for not having blinds. Paysdale ticket for having blinds. This don't make no sense. I have bamboo in my yard, and they cited me saying I had weed. You trying to tell me I'm selling all kinds of my property. Now I'm getting ready to get mad because everybody know about my bamboo. He gave me a ticket because he wanted me to paint my garage. Do you see the brick? Who paints them kind of bricks? You're not gonna mess up my bricks. That's the kind of
She's correct here too, people. Think about something here. This structure, the way it is now, flames start out here. You can see it was pretty open. It's likely not going to reach that roof. If she puts paint on this, it starts out down here, burning this paint and burns right up the side of that wall, burns the entire structure. She is making more common sense here by using her knowledge. Don't paint that building. You don't have to paint that. Who the hell makes an ordinance that says you got to build a structure and then paint it or paint it a certain color? The hell I do.
The conditional fear that you live in out here. Something as simple as that. Because
conditional fear, as simple as that. Very simply stated. This woman is absolutely 100% correct.
you know you're going to get a fine for it. In the 18 years I've been here, I've never had a problem until the last 10 years or so. And that started with simple citations that you might get. Then all of a sudden, it just started getting crazy.
Seemed like the Gestapo. They came to everyone's house.
These people are acting like a boiler room operation who gets a sale. What they do is they have what's called a cold call list, and that's just running straight through the phone book. They just go name by name by name, like this guy's talking about here, door to door. They're going name by name in the phone book, and they're calling people up and they're asking for a sale. Now, once this person commits and shows their stupidity that if you're going to go ahead and buy this idiotic item for outrageous price or whatever, they say, great. Now, the next time they've got a sale item, they're going to call them up and sell them again. It's the exact same thing these people are doing with these citations. If you allow them to get away with the first citation for barbecuing in your front lawn, they're going to come back again and give you a different citation for not painting your building. Then they're going to turn around and come back and give you another citation for planting bamboo in your yard. Then they're going to keep doing it, just like they're doing to this lady. Believe it.
Looking for things, and all my neighbors were telling me, did they come to your house? Did they come to your house? Did they ticket you? My boss said, if I went to court, I would lose my job. So I elected not to go.
His boss told him. His boss told him if he went to court, he would lose his job. That is conspiracy. Conspiracy. That is a direct violation of Title 18 of the United States Code 1951, like I said earlier. What is it? Interference with commerce through threats, duress, and coercion. Conspiracy between his employer, the ticket officer, and the court system playing against this man in a financial war that says if you go to court, you will lose your job. So he accepted the citation, didn't fight it, paid the fine coming out of his employer's check, thereby keeping the job by the employer who was doing the same thing, enabling the debtor imprisonment.
Go to court and go to work. They came to my house and arrested me for not paying the ticket.
Paysdale has it set up where you don't have a choice. You either gonna give me my money that I'm saying you got this fine on, or we will give you a warrant and you will be arrested. They don't care if you can afford it. They make that perfectly clear that it's not their concern. Their concern is what is owed to the court. It's all.
Do you get that, people? Their concern is what's owed to the court. They don't care if they violate your rights or anything. Their concern is with the courts, the payment to the courts, what is owed to the courts. There is no debt to another man. You cannot enforce a civil commitment, period. If you go to court for an eviction and a landlord gets a judgment, even if that judgment is proclaimed, they can't collect on it. I've got one sitting out there that I'm never going to pay it because I know I don't have to. Nobody can force me to, period. You can sit on those books all they want. That man will not get a dime.
About the money. You have got to know the effort that I have put into this place, that if you're going to lock me up because my grass too high, then you go right ahead. Everybody in Paysdale is in court on Thursday. So you don't have to bother go to your neighbor's house to see them. Go to the court. You'll see all your neighbors.
People in the same situation as Valerie line up at the local municipal court to try to pay their fines and seek counsel. Stephanie Loomis is an attorney at Arch City Defenders, an organization that represents the impoverished trapped in the system.
The line stretches well into the bank parking lot. The people wait out here for a couple hours. This is a cash cow. These courts are created to provide revenue.
These courts are created to provide revenue. It's a cash cow.
For the town, this system only affects the poor. The poor are the ones lined up night after night outside these courts, and the poor are the ones filling the pews. This isn't like Grand Theft Auto. These are fucking traffic tickets.
We went with staff.
She's pretty upset, isn't she? She used foul language there. She's supposed to be professional. She knows this. She knows she's got a professional air of conduct she's supposed to promote. And yet here she is in this open interview and she's swearing. She's pretty upset about this because, like I said, traffic violations, these are unarrestable offenses, yet these people are lining up to pay fines because they know if they don't, they're going to go to jail over an unarrestable offense.
Stephanie just a few towns over from Pagedale to Jennings to speak with some of the local defendants outside of the municipal court.
You walking there now is predominantly all Caucasian male officers in there, but everybody who's sitting down is black. Everybody. I don't have a criminal history or anything. I get pulled over, they search me like a criminal, pull me out the car. Like, they didn't even give me a reason why they flagged me, so, I mean, but that's normal, you know?
The police out of nowhere pulled me over, and I asked him, why didn't you pull the other car over? And he said he wanted, just because he wanted to pull me over, basically. And the other car did the same exact thing I did, but he was a different color, and I was black. That's what it was. He didn't want to say it.
They not catching any real criminals, though. That's my thing. Like, you filling your jails with people who go to work every day who may have expired plates by a day or two, and those are the people you targeted.
I've been jailed 12 times for not being able to afford my papers.
They're not allowed to incarcerate you for not having money.
But this is the law. They don't care. They still do it anyway.
He just told.
Well, this is law. They don't care. They just do it anyway. And that's right. They do. And that's why we need to start coming together and put an end to this shit. Excuse my language.
Told me basically I'm going to have to pay the fine or I'm going to go to jail, basically. These type of prices make you don't even want to come back to court. You know what I'm saying?
They only give you a certain amount of time to pay it before they put another warrant out. So that's why they lock me up.
Sometimes I just don't have the money to pay a ticket, and they had me stripped to my socks and my drawers and had me put on an orange jumpsuit like I was a murderer or something. I'm almost thinking about moving out of St. Louis, Missouri just because of how the police treat people.
The 90 municipalities of St. Louis County were created after white flight from St. Louis, largely to exclude poor people and minorities. Cities like Ferguson, which is 67% black, are being hit with the most fines and warrants. The average household in Ferguson has 3 warrants for petty violations, and these fines are the second highest source of revenue for the city.
The average house has 3 warrants. The average house has 3 warrants. This is ridiculous, people.
Michael Gunn, a St. Louis County Municipal Court judge, issues some of these fines and warrants.
Racism exists, but I got a problem. If you were the mayor and you wanted to make as much money as you could off of these speeders, why would you tell them to only stop poor black people? That sort of doesn't make much sense, does it? In addition, I don't know what evidence there is.
Because it creates a larger debt on the paperwork to show that you have some kind of validity to hold against them, period. Because you can't hold it against somebody that's got money. Those get paid, and therefore there's nothing on the ledger. They have to prove the largest debt on the ledger as they can for the fiscal budgeting. Period. Think about this stuff, people. It's all mathematics.
Of racial profiling. I do think that there has only been one side of the story which is being told, and that side is from a perspective of poor.
There's only one side of the ledger being told, and the stats are being negotiated or are being lied about.
Defendants.
Manipulated.
We have a great web of municipalities in St. Louis County who are serving the individual citizens of those particular areas very well. The citizens, for the most part, want these courts to pay for themselves. They don't want to raise taxes to pay for it. They want people who violate the law to pay their fines. We don't believe that because you're poor means you can violate the law.
However, when you institute statutes that require fines, fees, and penalties first and foremost, then you're thinking first and foremost about those fines, fees, and penalties before you go tacking on the quote statutory jail times, period. Otherwise, if you honestly thought it was a true crime, you'd go for the jail time to put the guy behind bar for doing something wrong rather than committing him for not paying fines for something that was an infraction or a violation on a civil aspect.
An inquiry as to whether or not people are able to pay their fines. For the most part,
why not do an inquiry on whether the people actually committed the crime? Again, their concern is with the fines, fees, and penalties and not with the actual criminal activity or the violation or infraction, period. They don't care about that. They just want to know that it's now on the ledger, and that's what they go by. They don't go by the record of the facts. They go by the ledger.
reply is that they are able to pay their fines. These are people who are guilty, so there's something that's going to happen to them, you know, in order for the system to...
Again, these are people that are guilty. He's already assessed that they're guilty. Guilty of what, though? Again, if it's a civil infraction or a civil violation, they can only be held guilty financially. And if you can't hold them financially guilty, you cannot convert it to a criminal offense and put them in jail, period.
Work, you're going to have to issue warrants.
Thomas Harvey is the executive director of Arch City Defenders. In 2014, they drew national attention to these new debtors' prisons by publishing a 41-page policy paper explaining the issues and filing countless lawsuits against rogue municipalities.
Municipalities in St. Louis County have never gone through the constitutionally required procedures to determine whether or not someone had the ability to pay before jailing them. And they target poor people and black people and then lock them in jail to extort the money from them and their family in order to meet a budget deficit. The most common charge was called failure to appear. Failure to appear just means you got fined at some point in the past and the judge threatens the person with jail if they don't come back at the next court appearance with some money. So a reasonable person doesn't walk back into the courtroom if they don't have the money. But then if you don't go back into the courtroom, a warrant is issued for your arrest. I can't overstate how...
Like I stated in yesterday's video review, when we talk about warrants, there are several different types, and the only type they can come after you for is a search warrant. And this, again, is by a criminal offense. If they have an arrest warrant, they can arrest you if they find you in public, but they cannot come to a private residence where they believe you're at or even know you're at and arrest you without a search warrant, period. These warrants that are being sent out in regards to these non-payment of fines are called bench warrants. And it's merely a warrant by the judge saying to bring you in. It is not an arrest warrant. It is not a search warrant. It is merely a bench warrant. A bench warrant is a bank warrant. A bank warrant is known as a put warrant or a call warrant, period. They are calling a warrant.
How serious it is because people are literally killing themselves in these jails.
Charles Anthony Chapman Jr. was arrested on bench warrants for traffic tickets in 2013. He was passed from jail to jail and ultimately hanged himself with his own bedsheet in Jennings, Missouri. He was only 24 years old.
That's him here holding his sons. And if you look at that picture, he didn't want to let go. He loved his sons. Anthony was an above average student. Whatever he did, he wanted to be the best. He had a band of friends. He loved his kids. That's who he was.
That's who he was.
That is the tragedy of all of this. Them boys miss him deeply. I'm Pawpaw, but I cannot substitute for their dad.
Right down this strip of highway, that's probably where he first started getting his first traffic tickets. Oh, there they go. This is all they do.
Yep.
It's ticket.
I had a little black Infiniti, and the neighborhood we was in, young black men were not supposed to drive Infinities, okay?
It was profiling.
So Anthony had accumulated a lot of traffic tickets. Not nothing serious, running a stop sign. He got pulled over, and that's the day that they arrested my son. This is the last day I seen my son alive. My son went to St. Louis County, was in jail for 5 whole days. They got ready to transfer him out. He told me all the places he had to go to, Belle Ridge, St. John. I got the money and stuff. I went and paid off all those places. And then we found out he was transferred him to Jennings. It was $800. And I tried everything I could, but I had nothing left. He went to Jennings. He wasn't there 12 hours. Something happened inside of him. That following morning, they were knocking on my door. Little did I know that knock on that door that day would be a true kick in my gut. No parent should ever have to go through what we've been through.
I miss his hugs.
You know?
I miss his hugs so much.
Lord have mercy. Lord, always hold his beloved son, baby brother, devoted father, protective uncle, and loyal friend.
We thought we'd have more time.
I love that tombstone reading. Given to earth, taken home to heaven.
We just thought we'd have more time. That's me and my son. That's. I got you. People die in here. And it's just not here in St. Louis. This is prevalent everywhere. This justice system that we have is broke. And it ought to be fixed now. It ought to be fixed immediately and quick.
And we're the only ones that can fix it, people. We have to start committing ourselves to the oversight. This is no longer about money coming out of our pockets. We do not have to pay for oversight. Get your cameras out. Get home video systems, security systems for inside and outside your homes. And start taking your video equipment with you, using it. It should be common, people walking along videotaping each other, videotaping these public facilities, letting them know we are the oversight committee. We do not need to put it before a city council, a county board, a state representative, a federal commissioner. We don't need none of their permissions. We are the oversight. Step up.
Quit putting our kids in the ground and killing them.
August of 2016, part 1. And now we've got another one for 10 minutes, part 2. And this will be the last
I was
one.
brought up, you could be anything you set your mind to. I was basically living the American dream. And then I became homeless. I got arrested. At this time, I had no income. I was having a hard time eating, and then I had to come up with these fees for private probation. The only way they make money is if somebody's caught up in the system on probation, and I just got caught in this trap.
The only way, this guy says it perfectly, the only way they make money is when somebody gets caught up in the system.
In 1991, Georgia became one of the first states in the country to pass a law authorizing private companies to take over probation services. This led to the proliferation of private probation throughout the country. This led to the In 1991, Georgia became one of the first states in the country to pass
jurisdiction of probation matters in ordinance violation cases. Jurisdiction of probation matters
a law authorizing private companies
in ordinance violation cases. That's specific language there, people. Municipal ordinances. Costs agreements between chief judges of county courts or judges of municipal courts and corporations, enterprises, or agencies for probation services. This has nothing to do with anything but ordinances. Got it? They're getting you on the lowest level in the municipalities through the ordinances, causing those to be civil actions that are supposedly subject to county or state infractions or violations that can be conveyed to criminal charges if the municipal cannot collect. Those collection of fees at the municipal ordinance level is then being upheld under these county and state statutes. They are furthering this through their judicial system throughout, top to bottom.
To take over probation services. This led to the proliferation of private probation, using private companies to take over probation services. This led to the pass a law authorizing.
As used in this article, the terms council means the County and Municipal Probation Advisory Council. It's not the county, it's not the municipal, but it's a probation advisory council created by the county and municipal. Private probation officer. Notice they don't mention public probation officer, merely private probation officer. Again, a public ordinance being put under private probation services.
Authorizing private companies to take over probation services. This led to the proliferation of private probation throughout the country. Private probation companies frequently collect debts owed to municipal courts. Since these are for-profit companies, they charge the probationer additional fees like drug tests or electronic monitoring that keep them in debt and on probation for as long as possible.
Early on, I was real ambitious. I got into pharmacy school, I got married. June 13, 2007, I was in a car wreck, and it's not something I'm proud of, but I started taking pills, and I got physically addicted to them, and I had to take them just to physically function. And that's when my marriage, I think, started falling apart. I lost my desire to live, and I became homeless. That happened so quick. I didn't know what to do. And I can remember one day it was raining, it was cold. I had my big bag with me, and I was standing out in the rain. I had nowhere to go, and I don't want to forget that. I used to sleep right underneath this bridge, right over here. People would be sleeping. They get robbed, beat up. A couple of times they got killed. I haven't been here in a while, but it's not really the easiest to get down here. I used to stay right there. There was an old mattress. Between that and mosquitoes, it was kind of hard to get comfortable. When I was homeless, I'd be so tired, I'd be walking, almost being asleep as I'm walking. I continued to drink and continued to stay depressed and just was losing all hope and finding that it was a lot harder to get out of this pit that I found myself in. When I was walking to community service one time, and I decided, you know something, I'm getting me a beer. And so I went into this convenience store. I didn't have enough money, so I put one in a bag I was carrying. And I didn't know it. They'd been watching me. And when I got arrested for that, it was 1 year on probation for that. And then I had to come up with these fees. I had no income. I was fully compliant with all the requirements of probation. The only thing I was not able to do was pay the amount of money that Sentinel wanted me to pay. I would go to Sentinel and I would never know each week if I was going to be locked up because of the amount of money I owed. I just got caught in this, what I felt like was a trap.
One of the things I'll mention here, in today's probation services, I know a lot of people that are on probation or were on probation and have been released from probation simply because they paid the fines. They were released early. And here we have situations where because the fines, fees, and penalties aren't paid or can't be paid, they extend probations or add charges called non-payment of fines to extend that probation. And this is just sickening, sickening.
Sentinel is a private probation company that has been sued over a dozen times for requiring probationers to pay for services not ordered by the court. In Georgia alone, these companies make an estimated $40 million a year from their already poor clients. Sentinel probation wouldn't return our call.
What happens a lot of time in situations like this here, where you hear them mentioning that probationers were paying for services not required by the court. When you go to court, you're signing one document. When you sign up with your probation services, you're signing another document. Okay, and these documents have different requirements. So if the court document says you have to sign up for probation with this probation service here locally, then you have to go sign up. That's one order. Now you've signed another set of agreements with the probation services that were not included in the court order specifically, but generally are accepted as part of the court order because you were required to sign up with this probation services and agree to their agreements. And under that agreement, you agreed to have an ankle monitor or commit to drug evaluations every so often, or this or that. This is inherently a quasi-contract situation that is fraudulent, period, whether it be public or private. If the court is going to sentence somebody to a probation, then the requirements of that probation and not services extended beyond that are what should be required. And this should be committed to both through the probationer and the probation services as part of the trust agreement that is consensually being assigned. Again, I'm telling you, these people are in there because of consent upon their signatures, and we need to get people to comprehend this so that this quits happening. Educate these people that when they're given these civil citations, what's actually going on. But anyway, through all of this, it's been converted to a criminal situation, and now this guy that signed the probation agreement with the court is now signing a probation agreement with the probation services, and that includes extra services that are not ordered through the court but are mandatory through the service, which is ordered through the court. Quasi-contract, fraudulent.
So we showed up to their offices in Georgia to try to hear their side of the story.
Can't talk to the press. To be hatefully honest,
Yeah.
you really can't be on our property. We have too many problems with the press. All right, thank you.
To be hatefully honest, we've had too many problems with the press, so they're going to hate anybody that's involved with the press. Now, if they're involved with the press and they hate them because of that, what if it's a probationer? I'm betting that probationer has in his contract he cannot video or audio record without the express permission of the other party involved in that private situation, which is, again, an unconstitutional agreement mandated by court orders saying that you have to sign up with this probation service, period.
Well, the private probation companies are making a lot of money, and courts normally use probation officers as their eyes and ears to report to them the facts. But here, when you have a private probation company, they have an incentive not to report the facts because they want to keep somebody paying them fees for being on probation. So they are the winners. Now, who are the losers? The losers are poor people. And if they are poor and get thrown in jail, it's the taxpayers because we pay the cost of incarcerating someone. It's judicial extortion. The courts are being utilized by a private for-profit company that is in the business of making a profit. You should not outsource any part of government that can result in someone losing their liberty or freedom.
Notice this man said the courts are utilizing these private probation services. And he's correct in that statement. Like I said, this is all biased. The courts are utilizing the probation services. Now, though they may in larger communities have several probation services, the community I'm in only has one probation service. And therefore, you can't go to another municipality and get probation services there. You have to use the local probation services of where you reside. So if you get a municipal infraction in, say, a town here that's not the county seat, you're subjected to the probation services in that small municipality of where you reside. This is all conflict of interest and biased and all that. It's all a violation of your constitutional rights, every last bit of it.
Private probation companies create an unfair bias against the probationer. This system can trap financially unstable people like Thomas Barrett in a never-ending cycle of payments.
The only way they make money is if somebody's caught up in the system on probation. And the longer they stay on probation, the longer they're in the system, the more money that the sentinel is going to be able to make off that person. It's not justice. The punishment definitely didn't fit the crime. It's almost like it's one strike or you're out.
I'm on probation through Sentinel. That's for the.
It's not one. It's almost like you're one. It's almost like one strike and you're out. It's one strike and you're in. You're in their grips.
Judge assigned me to go because I didn't have the $200 that day. It's a simple misdemeanor. They threaten you that if you don't show up and have this amount of money, you're going to jail today. It's a constant threat and stress.
This is very proof of extortion. When they say something like, you either pay the fines today or sign up for probation or go to jail. That's extortion. Blatant extortion in, on, and for the record. This is the unlawful conversion, and they're the ones that are committing the crime in the first place to do so. This is extortion.
I feel like they're extorting me for any and every dime they can get out of me, sucking me dry.
So I'm at Sentinel probation for not being able to afford my traffic ticket. They know that I'm a student and I don't have the funds. They basically told me that it's not their problem, that I would have to just come up with it with some kind of way. So my fines have accumulated. I've already paid.
It's not their problem. It's their profit.
$420 something in fines. So now I owe them like $1,000 compared to the $260 that my original fine was. So I don't think it's fair at all.
Almost 5 times. Almost 4 times what this woman's original ticket was. They now claim that she owes for everything involved. It is a for-profit system intended for one strike, you're in.
They don't care about you, they care about the money. I'm sitting in jail basically because I couldn't afford my traffic tickets. Them having this privately owned business set up, it's cost people their lives, their jobs, their homes, their families. It's cost them a lot of things.
In Alabama, the Southern Poverty Law Center, or SPLC, is fighting to stop these practices.
Southern Poverty Law Center. I want people to comprehend this is one of the most corrupt people in the world. These people are helping with the statistics and provide information that allows these people to get away with doing what they're doing at each and every level, each and every step along the way. So when they say they're trying to provide ways to prevent this, they're actually saying they're trying to provide ways to cover this shit up, to revenue it and find different ways of making that same profit in a different form, like we discussed earlier. It's still a debtor's prison, it's just in a different form. What they're saying here is they're just trying to find a different form to institute the same kind of bullshit. Southern Poverty Law Center is so corrupt in and of itself. I'm anxious to hear what these people have to say. This is one of those videos I have not reviewed in full yet.
A judge in Marion, Alabama brought a mobile blood truck to the courthouse and told defendants that if they could not pay, they would have to give blood or go to jail.
There's a blood drop outside. If you're not having the money and not want to go to jail, there's an option to pay it. You can give blood today. When the sheriff has enough handcuffs for those who do not have money.
The judge was ultimately censured after the SPLC filed a judicial.
Again, extortion. Again, extortion. If you do not have enough money to pay the fines, you go to jail. Or you can go out and give blood. Extortion, period.
Ethics complaint against him. Samuel Brooke at the SPLC filed lawsuits against the private probation companies in Alabama, effectively ending the practice in the state.
The private probation companies really are operating in what's essentially nothing more than an extortion racket. It literally becomes incredibly expensive to be poor in this country. And that's certainly what we have been seeing and what we're alleging in a lawsuit against this.
He made a very honest statement there. I have to give this guy credit. It's becoming expensively, more expensive to be poor. It is becoming more expensive to be poor.
Company against Judicial Correction Services, alleging that this is fundamentally extortion and that this is a racketeering enterprise. The RICO statute, the same statute that we normally think of as going after the mob, is really fundamentally saying you're engaging in extortative activity on a regular, recurring basis. That's exactly what we allege is happening here. Within about 9 months, as municipalities learned about these allegations and what was happening, they parted ways with the company and said they were no longer interested, and they pulled out of the state. Go talk to your city council and hold them accountable for what's happening in your town. It's ultimately those.
Again, I give this guy kudos. Go to your city council, make it known, stand up. And as far as Alabama, SPC holds a lot of weight. And that's the only reason that they changed things in Alabama. I'm curious to find out how they've changed, to see if there's just a different form of creating or pulling people in on a first strike and keeping them there. I'm very interested in this public probation and how it works. Whether the court order mandates they set up with the public probation company or services, and whether that services then provides extra services like the private services did. That would be fundamentally the exact same thing. There's still two different contracts if they're having them sign two different documents.
Those elected officials who are going to put a stop to this, but they're only going to put a stop to it if the members of the community are making their voices heard to say, this isn't what we want our town, our police department, our judge to be doing.
As long as private probation exists in states like Georgia, there will be people like Thomas Barrett doing whatever they can to make their payments.
I started looking around for something I could do for money, but I kept getting locked up, and so I wasn't even able to get any kind of momentum going there, any confidence that I could get a job. The only way I can make money to pay for probation is to sell my plasma. I found out I could sell my plasma. I could do it twice a week, where I could make $200 to $220 a month. I can throw that at the monitor, and then maybe I can get a job and make up the extra money.
This guy used his mind and accepted their offer in regards to the court situation of not paying fines, instead of going out to the blood drive truck, he started doing it on his own, and therefore the people that are doing the blood draw services are the only ones that have that information. It is a medical institution that he went to on his own and signed his own private contract. The courts do not have privy to that information, whereas the other instance, it could have very well been set up so that they had a contract with the courts to arrive and do the blood drive there at the courthouse, so that the information could then be passed to the courthouse since it was done on their property. Very, very complicit ways of gathering information. That's what this is all about. One strike in that box on a public information form and you're in. You give them information and you're in.
I go there and it takes 3 to 4 hours a day. I mean, here I got nothing. All I had was my plasma to get money. Selling plasma is like, wasn't a high point in my life, you know. After giving plasma, feel wiped out, drained, have to drink a lot.
He said it's not a high point in his life. And I want people to realize this is one of those things that you still need to be very discretionary about. But there are services out there that do this stuff, these biomedical drawing services that do need plasma, that do need it for specific good quality medical research. But again, I'm not in the medical system anymore. But according to the way the economy and life and everything runs today, this is still a very important service. Just be very, again, just like any courts or municipalities that you plan on moving to, or you have to be very discretionary about them. Same thing here. If you're going to give blood or give plasma, be very discretionary about it. Think about its worthiness. If you really think it's worthy to give blood, think about who you're giving it to. Are they really using it for the prime or superior purposes? Or are they using it in labs that are testing fetal material and this and that for vaccinations and this and that? Be very aware and ask questions. This is how you get discretion, is by asking your own questions and not just believing everybody else. I tell people all the time, don't believe your government, don't believe these courts, don't believe the officers, don't believe your neighbors, don't believe me. Do your research and educate yourself so you know thyself, heal thyself.
A lot of fluids afterwards.
You live in town.
That's right. You get to a point where you just don't see any way out.
This one here says almost 300,000. Remember, the other one is 14.2 million, and the taxpayers paid out 320,000. This one here, Sentinel, has paid almost 300,000. Ooh, yeah, whoop-de-doo. They owe a lot more. And there you have it, folks. I really wish I'd have had more participants today, but go ahead and do your research. I'm not going to post the links. I've already closed them out. If you watch this Zoom meeting, you'll see those videos, and you can watch them all in full here, or you can watch them, the ones that you didn't get to see in full, or watch them again for your own purposes, whatever. But the titles are all there. And we need to start doing this, people. We need to start creating our own oversight by and within ourselves. That's our obligation. If you want to truly love thy neighbor as thyself, like you hope he's keeping an eye on you, so that when they come to your door, he's got his camera on him as well. You know, we need to get back to. I remember doing block parties when I was younger, and we were all associative. We all gathered with our neighbors because we knew those were the people keeping an eye on ourselves. When we went out through the neighborhood and played kick the can in the middle of the night when it's dark, basic hide and seek game throughout the neighborhood. Your neighbors, you wanted your neighbors to know your children because you knew they'd be out playing in the neighborhood, playing hide and seek, playing their silly games at night during the summer, you know. Looking out for your next generation is a very important thing in that aspect, and we need to get back to it. We need to start opening our doors and going out on our front porch, and sure, you've already got your phone in hand. As soon as you hear them sirens, turn the camera on and watch them come down the street. If they happen to stop at your neighbor's house, you're catching it full on straight from the start. Be prepared. Be able to fight back in a peaceful manner, simply by keeping an eye on Big Brother, and keeping an eye on your neighbors in goodwill, with good intent, not to catch your neighbors doing something wrong, but to catch your neighbors being harassed, so that you can transform that as a way of protecting yourself by showing your neighbor that you stand up for them, meaning you're going to stand up for yourself as well. So again, think about this stuff, people, and I hope I'm making a good impression on you in regards to these new video reviews, in expressing my knowledge and how to interpret these videos, and hope you'll join me in connecting up with videos and sending them to me so we can do these reviews. I don't want to just do video reviews of videos I've watched. Send me some that you think might be good as well. I'd be glad to look at them, and we can have discussions over them. Again, the reviews today, I've only obviously got one other viewer with me while I'm recording, but as you see the recording, make comments, get a hold of me on Facebook, and realize that we all need to start coming together in doing this. And I realize a lot of people are going to only get, well, I'm only posting them on Facebook, so they're only going to get them on Facebook, but I'm going to post my my Facebook link in the chat section here, so anybody that does happen to get this off of somebody else via some other venue from Facebook, you can look me up on Facebook and catch me there. We'll look over my page and my group, which I'm posting next, in hopes that you will check me out on Facebook if you don't get me there now. If I can get it to move. My page seems kind of slow here. And I'll send you the copy or the link to my Facebook group called Hotep Sekemwe. I know it may seem hard to pronounce at first, but you'll get used to it as you get to know me. And so there you have my Facebook personal page showing information over the last 4 years or so of my research from my last case on. And then my Facebook group in regards to news, information, humor, and research material, whatnot, regarding law, legal, and various different aspects of recapturing yourself and getting out of the system. As we mentioned, it's one strike and you're in. It's going to take a lot more marks, a lot more strikes of your own pen to get yourself out. So you must educate yourself. You must educate yourself in the word, because you're going to have to start writing it down. And remember, folks, that's the end of it for today. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. God bless you. I love you. Have a great day. Bye.